Well, fresh off a trip up here to the Kansas City area to figure out how to keep these two professional sports franchises in the Kansas City area, Governor Mike Parson joins us on KCMO 95.7 FM. We are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Governor, you were just here earlier in the week, and did you come away feeling better about the possibility of keeping the Royals and the Chiefs in Missouri?
Yeah, you know what? I feel good about it, Pete. I really do. I met with a lot of key people up there. I'll probably be following up with the teams here in the next week or so. I still think there's a plan forward here in Missouri. I think we just, the biggest thing is just getting some facts of what's going on. I mean, the biggest obstacle right now is where's the Royals going to be, and somebody needs to make a decision and what that's going to look like. So there's still a lot of moving parts, and I think the thing I was trying to stress as much as anything is I don't think anybody's just going to write blank checks and say, hey, here's so many $1 million to you. I think it's got to be more of a business perspective and say, okay, what are the needs? What does the state can do? What can the cities do? What can the counties do? And then let's try to put a package together to try to meet the demands. But there's a lot of moving parts to this too, and there was some things I said in there in those meetings that I'll tell you right now. I think you got to split the two. I mean, the Royals are going to have to go do their thing, and the Chiefs are going to have to do their thing. I think that's just probably going to happen.
Split the two, does that mean outside of KCMO and Jackson County, or just physically split the two? We know the Royals want to be out of Truman Sports Complex.
Yeah, I think moving them. I think first thing you got to do is realize that I do believe that the Royals will either be downtown Kansas City. I feel like that's where they're going to be. I'm telling you what I think, not what I necessarily know, but I think the Royals would like to be downtown Kansas City somewhere, so that takes them out of the Truman Complex. I think then the Chiefs are going to be looking at a different type package, I guess, if they do some refurbish of the Arrowhead. And then I think the training facility is a big deal. Everything that I talk to, every leader that I could talk to, this is much more than just a stadium. This is about what are you going to build around stadiums, and whether that's office space, whether that's restaurants, bars, entertainment district, but it's much larger than just a statement. It's much larger than just the stadiums. If you look at places like Jacksonville, Nashville, Minnesota Vikings, kind of all the complexes they're building nowadays, it's much larger than just a stadium. It's because let's face it, a lot of people's not going to ever go into those stadiums. So what is it going to be there for the rest of the community for entertainment purposes? And I think you got to start looking at it from that aspect to put together a plan.
Mm-hmm. Governor Mike Parson is here on KCMO Talk Radio. You mentioned you coming up to bring people together, and that would be, I imagine, the political leaders here, Jackson County, Kansas City, maybe Clay County is part of that conversation as well. Do you feel like there's been a disconnect between local leaders? Because that's certainly how it appears to be locally right now. And how much are you trying to basically get everybody back on the same page?
Well, again, Pete, I think it comes back to the point. I do believe everybody wants both teams to stay in Missouri. I just think there's a lot of missing pieces for everybody to figure out how to help. I will tell you, I was very impressed with Clay County, meeting with their people. I thought they really did a lot of homework, did a lot of ways to help finance different type things. I was pretty impressed with them. I think by all means, you have to know, again, what is the location of the Royals? Number one, that's got to be decided. Then you got to decide, well, what is the real number to build this thing? Because you may pick a site. There's various sites that could come into play here, but they all going to be different ranges of prices. They're going to be different ranges of building infrastructure around them, or can you even build infrastructure around them? So there's we just need to get everybody together on the same page and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And maybe I will tell you, Pete, I think you need to look at an aspect to say, okay, county, city, state, what are you going to do? I think right now we're trying to figure out, the Royals and the Chiefs are kind of saying, hey, here's what we want, and I get that. But at some point, we all got to do our deal and says, okay, here's what we believe we can do, and then you start a negotiation.
Mm-hmm. You feel better after talking to County Executive Frank White because, the the teams, and I would say certainly feel like he's been maybe an impediment to them getting done what they want to get done in some capacity.
Yeah, it was a good meeting with Frank. I mean, look, he's probably a little more apprehensive than most of the other meetings that I had, but he feels like he's doing what his constituents want, or he believes it is. So, I got to give him credit for that. He did say that I was more than welcome to try to negotiate, to help, to broker some sort of deal. So I think he is showing some signs that he's trying to get something across the finish line. I don't believe, at the end of the day, though, and I think this will just purely come out eventually, I don't think both teams are going to end up at the Truman Complex. And so that changes that tax structure a little bit, but I do not believe they'll both end up there.
What are the tools in the state toolbox, given the fact that, you noted it's not going to be a blank check and the legislative session's over anyway, and you're done in January as governor. So what are those tools that, the general public are not thinking of that are in the toolbox that could be enticing to the teams to remain in Missouri?
Yeah, well, location, number one, I'll go back to that, because you're going to have to build infrastructure around that, which I mean highways, off-ramps, a lot of million-dollar type pieces will have to go in there if you look through the DNR side, through water, sewer, all the different things that go underneath the ground. That's not going to be very sexy things that anybody's going to want to be talking about too much. But those things are available now. The economic development tools we have, depending on how many jobs it's create, depending on where it's built. There's a lot of things we have now that can add up quite a bit. And another example of that would be parking. We've got resources to build parking facilities if we needed to build them and if they wanted that part of it. So, I mean, there's lots of things we can do between now and January that we could do. I do think at some point you will definitely have to have legislative action, but you got to put everything on the table, Pete. I mean, whether it's a surcharge on tickets, I mean, look, we're going to have to figure out different ways that everybody's going to have to help pay for this thing a little bit. And I think it can be done, though. I don't think it's that far off of getting something done.
Okay. As you mentioned, you're going to be talking to the teams here, and you mentioned trying to get some more clarity out of them. So has anyone really spoken to the team since the April 2nd vote? And if not, what do you want those conversations with the team to look like as you take the next step here? Yeah,
well, we have been in contact with both teams since that time. Again, I think we have to come to the realization now that they were talking two separate entities here. And we're going to have to build a package for Arrowhead or for the Chiefs, and then we're going to have to build a package for the Royals and see what those look like. But again, I mean, and I will, in fairness, not to pick one or the other. I mean, everybody knows I'm a Chiefs fan. So, but regardless, the Chiefs probably have a little bit more of a solid plan of what they were trying to do and how they was going to spend money and what it was going to take. I think the big question for the Chiefs is the training facility, where that might be, and what options they have there. And I think for the Royals so I think the Chiefs are a little bit more ahead of the game than the Royals, but the Royals have got to pick up a spot, Pete. I mean, they've got to be able to say, this is what we're going to do, this is what we feel like it's going to cost, and here's what we think we need from the taxpayers. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's going to, it's not going to be a blank check type of deal, I think maybe a lot of people was hoping that everybody's going to send a bunch of money.
Yeah. And when it comes to Kansas, obviously all the folks are looking over there. I heard you say the other day you're not worried about Kansas right now, and you still still feel pretty confident in saying that you're not worried about Kansas today?
Well, maybe I'm not worried about them, but I think Kansas is going to be as aggressive as they can be. I don't know that their star bonds are any better than most of the tools we have in our toolbox here in the state. I think the big question for Kansas, even if you go down that route, who's going to back those bonds? So is the state going to back that? Because a lot of times they just try to sell them out there on the open market, and I don't even know what Kansas's bond rating is. I know ours is AAA, and it's the best you can have, so it makes a huge difference when you go borrowing money. And when you're trying to generate the money to pay it back, and this is kind of into the weeds, but when you're trying to take the sales tax off a $10, $12 beer, it takes a long time to put money together. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying it can't, but I'm not saying that's no slam dunk over there either. Just because they pass that, I don't know that that's money on the table.
Yeah. Last thing, Governor, since we're in this governor's race here, we've got less than a month to go until the August 6th primary. All those candidates have been asked about this issue, where they stand on it. Where are you at in this race with 30 days to go? I mean, we know you've handpicked your current lieutenant governor when you became the governor. Are you doing endorsements? What does this look like for you in the next 30 days?
Yeah, I think officially there'll be endorsements come out. My guess is, Pete, in this week probably, or towards the end of this week or next week, it'll say that. Look, I think I've kind of alluded to this, but look, these guys have all worked for me. I handpicked most of them to go through some of the most difficult times in our state, whether it was COVID, civil unrest, floods, droughts, and they've been loyal to me, and I'm just that kind of guy. I got to stick up for the guys that's been with me the whole time, and they've done a good job. So. You got the lieutenant governor, Vivek Malik, and Andrew Bailey. All of them have been under my camp, I guess I want to say. So officially, I guess if what you're asking is if there'll be an official announcement on that probably within the week. All
right. Very good. Governor Parson, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Have a great week.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
There you go. Mike Parson on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.